Hey, welcome back. I hope you guys had a great Christmas, enjoyed your Christmas songs, and loved playing your guitar. Maybe you even got some new guitar toys or even a new guitar for Christmas. So welcome aboard if you're brand new here for some beginner guitar lessons. We've been moving along and we're at about lesson 26 now. One of the joys of the Christmas season is learning a bunch of Christmas songs to get ready for the holiday. But one of the things that usually comes up short is the playing of New Year's Eve songs like Auld Lang Syne. Because we're preparing so much for Christmas and then take a 2-week break, most people don't get to do this one. So I'm going to jam it in here during this week. Hopefully you'll have time to prepare it. Going back to our first handful of lessons, one of the first things we learned was the name of the guitar strings. E, A, D, G, B, and E. Those are your open strings when you're not fretting them. We remember that by Eddie 8 Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie, or probably by now you've just got them memorized. We filled in all of the notes. We learned the E, F, G, B, C, and D through Jingle Bells and then through the Hal Leonard book. Built up our scale in the key of C. There we found we have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You hear the alphabet there? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The tonal center in this is the note C though. If we start on C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You hear a major scale. So that's why this is the key signature of C. This pattern with only the natural notes gives you the major scale in the key of C. We find that we've got half steps between E's and F's and B's and C's. That means they're only 1 fret apart where all the other notes are 2 frets apart. So we get C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C with whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half. In our case, discovered from this. But in theory, that's actually how you build a major scale. In a theory book, they would give you those steps first, and then you'd go and equate them to a scale in a real key. So we see our whole steps are 2 frets, our half steps are 1 fret apart. That's the key of C with E's and F's, B's and C's a half step apart. If we want to play in the key of G, we would actually have to apply that whole, half, whole, half pattern starting on a G note. That would force us to have an F sharp. When we get to the end of the scale where F is right before the G, we need a half a step there, as our major scale tells us. F is a whole step below G though, so to accommodate that half step we'll have to sharp the F to get it closer to the G. It becomes what's known as the leading tone. The 7th note of the major scale is a half step away from the root, and it leads you to hear that root. We saw that when we may have accidentally tried to change our scale when we learned the 3rd string. To satisfy your ear, you need an F sharp there. That's the leading tone, pushing you onto the G note. If we played from G to G, but we used the F note, we're still in the key signature of C. And a lot of people will hear that dissatisfying ending. So the physics of scales, the laws of our theory, and the way our ears pick it all up, all work together to tell us that we need an F sharp in there. If I start on the low end, I can start on this G, sharp that F, which means to raise it a fret, and get to the G note. So there we have the G scale in the key of G major in 2 octaves. We still have E and F sharp in that position available to us. So in our inventory of notes, we still have them. If we start on the E though, you'll notice the E doesn't sound like the home base of that scale. You'd have to reorientate your ears to hear this as E minor. So E minor uses all the same notes. It's the relative minor of G. We found also that we could do a pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale doesn't want these half steps in there as they can cause clashes. So when you remove them, you remove the 4th and the 7th degrees of the scale. In C, we would lose the F note and the B note. In G major pentatonic, we'll lose the C note and the F sharp note. So here are the notes. hear that open sound of pentatonic. It can be E blues or E minor. Or G major. We've started speaking of a lot of songs that use the pentatonic, and Auld Lang Syne, the classic New Year's Eve song, is one of them. Once again, I like to practice this by playing the middle part of the scale. So much of the G pentatonic major that's played in this open position with your G chords will focus around the D and G strings with the open D, 2nd fret E, open G, 2nd fret A. So you can play those opens and 2nd frets a lot. On the 2nd string, you'll have the B and the D, open and 3rd. So practice those a little bit. Don't forget to say their names, and don't forget to read them as well. D, E, G, A, B, D, and even up here, E and G. But make sure you're feeling comfortable in the middle of the guitar here. And now we'll move on to Auld Lang Syne that uses those notes. So here are the notes for Auld Lang Syne. I'll talk you through some of the rudiments here one more time. We've got our treble clef at the beginning. That's also known as the G clef, as you know. This circle at the bottom of this stylized G is on the G line. So where you find that note, on that line, you find the G. You also know that from many of your practices now, but also from the lines, knowing that they're called Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge. The G note is the key note of the song. We've also seen in many of our songs, especially the pentatonic ones, that they like to focus on that in sort of the middle of the scale and come to it from the 5th below. In G, G, A, B, C, D is the 5th. So very often you place that 5th below the root in your introduction. We've seen that many times. We'll see it in Amazing Grace, these same 3 notes, G, D, G, and B. Red River Valley. And now in Auld Lang Syne. We'll also see our A note here, the first note with the stem going up. Looks like an ant to me. It's sitting in that 2nd space, and the stem going up resembles an antenna. The B is in the very middle of the staff. You could think of the middle of a person, their waist, with their belly or their belt there. E at the end of the line we got very familiar with early on from Jingle Bells and then Ode to Joy. So all of your note reading is accumulating for you. We have a new figure here we've talked about a little bit before. We saw it in Ode to Joy and other songs. I said to ignore it, but just be visually aware of it. Auld Lang Syne can work really well to teach us this rhythmic figure, as that's the theme of the song. We have a long note here and a short one there. Over and over, bar after bar. Long, short, long, short, long, long, short, long, long, short. So what we have there then, you see a dot on my quarter note. That's called a dotted quarter note. It's taken this 1 beat quarter note and extended it to a beat and a half. A quarter note would be followed by another one, but since we've extended it by a half a beat, we've stolen that half beat from the next note. This quarter note is now turned into an 8th. It's only a half a beat at the end of that 2nd beat. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4 in that bar, we've stretched one and shortened the other. They still occupy the 2 beats, but now it's divided differently. Instead of 1 beat each, it's a beat and a half and then a half a beat. So a dotted quarter note is extended from 1 beat to a beat and a half. The 8th note with the little flag on the stem is a half beat. So that's at the end of beat 2. Counting wise, you would hear this one's on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. That dotted half note is 3 beats. You notice there's only 1 beat left over at the end. Beat 4 has that E note. 1, 2, and 3, 4. A, 2, and 3, 4. G, 2, E, D, G. Another dotted half note. It's gone from 2 beats up to 3. So we got a 4th beat at the end with that high E. 1, 2, and 3, 4. A, G, A, E, D. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3, 4. A, G, A, B, G. G. 1, 2, 3 for this G. Where's beat 4? If properly written, beat 4 is missing in this last bar because it was borrowed and put at the front of the song. This is called a pickup note. The pickup note comes before the first full bar. There can be various numbers of pickup notes, as long as it's not a complete bar. If there were all 4 beats here, that's just bar 1. But if there were only 3 beats, that would be eliminating beat 1, and we'd have beats 2, 3, and 4 as pickup notes. If there were 2 beats, those would be 3 and 4 coming before the next bar, which is 1. So if this is 1, this must be 4. So by way of reminder, I often will show this hand picking up the note and putting it to the top of the song. If I ask you and you don't remember what it's called when there's a note at the beginning of the song left over from the end, I'll actually make the movement. As soon as people see you do that, they'll go, oh, it's the pickup note. I will also draw a little pickup truck sometimes, the little farmer waving at you and a note in the back of his pickup truck. Either way, some kind of visual will help you to remember what it's called and what it's doing. Notice again, this was not all presented to you in a theoretical formula in a book where you turn page after page trying to read and memorize these things, detached from actual material. I'm introducing them as they come along, just sort of throwing it at you, not expecting you to sit down and memorize it, just gain that familiarity. Hear the word pickup note, get a sense of what it's doing, but maybe not even fully understand it. We'll see it again and again and again in other songs, and you'll get a chance to learn them by exposure. If after a period you find out it's not sticking, then yes, do stop and study it, write it down and think about it. But don't ruin your playing in the beginning stages by thinking about this too much. We'll count to 3, we'll play this on beat 4 and get going. If you can't count 1 and 2 and to get this beat yet, don't worry about it. You want to work on that. That's a skill you need to get into your system, but we're actually using the song to ingrain the sound of it first. You want to learn by sight. This figure sounds like this. A longer note, 1 and 2 and, with that short guy at the end. You've heard it in Ode to Joy. Ba, ba, ba. Long note, short note. I'm going to play this one more time. I'm going to harmonize it very simply. We're in the key of G, and I'm just going to use the 3 chords that we've spoken of before. G is the 1, G, A, B, C is the 4, and D or D7 is the 5. So every note in here can be harmonized by those chords. I'll write them on here, but I'm going to give you a piece of sheet music immediately after this that has a more complex substitution formula for the chords. You know all the chords, so you can practice it from your chord sheets, but this one will get us through this as well. This is another hymn style song like Ode to Joy, where we had one theme in the first 4 bars. We hear the next 4 bars are very similar, just with a little adaptation at the end. The next 4 bars, the third line, would be quite a bit different than we'd return to the second one in that case. In Au Clair de la Lune, lines 1, 2, and 4 are identical, with that third line being separate. In this, we hear one theme repeated twice, and we come back to it. Never is it fully identical, but you do hear that third stave coming out and sounding a little bit different. I've gone with the simplest harmony here. G's and B notes are found in a G chord, so I'll use it. These A's are prominent in a D7. The other 2 notes look like passing notes, so I'll play this as a D7. Here's G, B, and D. Clearly, that's a G chord, as that's the 3 notes we have in there. The C chord I'll use at the end of the line on that high E note. Over and over, those are the chords that will represent this song in a broad way. So here it is again. I'll count to 3. I'll start on my pickup note. one beat before the first chord. You sing the word should and then start strumming on Old Acquaintance. 1, 2, 3, 4. C chord. Second line. Notice the high part. 1, 2, 3. Last section is like the first. I cheated near the end for a little more closure. I put the 5 chord, the D7. 5 chords lead to 1 chords. That's a little rule you'll want to get used to. So right there, I've put that one in just to satisfy my ear there. I actually did sneak a couple of extras in here and there too, where I said I was going to do a whole bar of 1 chord, and maybe I threw in the 5 chord at the end. In fact, there I think I threw the 1 chord in accidentally. So that's the song. I'm going to put up the sheet music for you and play through it a couple of times with the actual chords. In the sheet music I'm giving you, I've got a D7 chord written on the first note, as we see it in the music that I've used, but I'm not actually going to play it. I'm just going to hit the note. You don't have to play that first chord on 1 beat either. 1, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully you can play along with that. One thing I could recommend to you is if you don't like all these chords in there right now, you can substitute G's for all of the E minors and C's for all of the A minors. G and E minor are relatives, C and A minor are relatives, so they are good substitutes for one another. Thanks a lot. Happy New Year. Have a great holiday.